Hi, this is Caroline Balinska from eCommerce Backstage Pass, and you're listening to 360 Entrepreneur with Jan Ilonga.
This is episode 174, and today we talk about e-commerce sites and retargeting success. Here we go.
Welcome to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, the show for entrepreneurs and small business owners who dream big and want to do bigger. Join some of the world's top entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and best-selling authors as they share their inspiring stories, their struggles, and give actionable tips that will help you build, grow, and promote your online business. Here's your host, Yanni Lunga.
Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to this new episode of the 360 Entrepreneur. In this one, we focus on e-commerce sites, we talk about retargeting, remarketing, and we're gonna also touch on sales funnels. So if any of those topics are topics that you're interested in, and if you're an entrepreneur, you should really care about those things, by the way, you're in the right place. And today's guest expert is Caroline Balinska. She's an e-commerce sites expert, marketing expert, and sales funnels expert. So she's the perfect person for this episode. And today's show notes are over at yannilunga.com/episode 174. All right, without further ado, here is the interview with Caroline Balinska from carolinebalinska.com. Hey everybody, today's episode is for you, especially if you have an e-commerce site, or maybe you're thinking about one. And we touched on e-commerce a little bit in the past, for example, the episode with Chloe Thomas, but we have so many golden nuggets that are coming your way. So make sure to buckle up your seatbelt. And today we're joined by somebody who helps entrepreneurs, who helps businesses. She's a digital innovation strategist. As I said, she helps entrepreneurs create their ideal business lifestyle. And over the last 10 plus years, she's been really the mastermind behind thousands of entrepreneurs and businesses, including some of the world's most prestigious and successful e-commerce stores. She's been behind their strategies. She's been featured in places like NBC, CBS News, Vogue, and you guessed it, she is here with us. I'm so thrilled to welcome on the show Caroline Balinska. Hola Caroline, ¿cómo estás?
Hola. Hi, Jan. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Very good. I can't complain. The weather here is amazing. So I'm very excited to be talking to you today.
I bet. And I mean, I said it to everybody, or I have to say it actually, that you are in Barcelona, right?
That's correct. That's why we started with hola.
Yeah, but no worries. The interview is going to be in English. So, Caroline, I kind of gave a quick snapshot of what you do, that, you know, you've been working with so many different e-commerce stores and these kind of things. And, I want to dive right into it because, as I said, we have quite some ground to cover. And I think the first question that is in order is for all the people who are here with you and I, could you give us a quick definition of what an e-commerce site is, in case there is somebody who isn't entirely sure?
Okay, so e-commerce would be when you sell products online, and there's a few different ways of doing that. You can either do drop shipping, so it means that you don't touch any products at all and someone takes care of it completely for you. You actually just have the purchase go through your website, and then the order goes straight to the manufacturer. They manufacture or they pack it, and then they send it to your customer. Or you've got the traditional way of doing it, where you might have, the original traditional way, when I started out, I had products at home in my warehouse, and then I actually was selling them online as well. And so then I'd pack them myself. Then you have another option where you have the products that you have in your warehouse and someone else takes care of the distribution for you. So there's a few different ways of doing it. So it's when you're selling products online. These days, you can add a few more layers into that. You can have membership, and then you've also got other platforms such as Etsy and Amazon and eBay as well.
Okay, love it. Thank you, Caroline, for giving us a quick definition of what an e-commerce site is. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, I have to ask you, because I saw on one of your sites that you have a downloadable video series, and you talk about something that is so critical. So I think that, it's a great conversation starter here. And that has to do with the common mistakes that are kind of preventing e-commerce sites from being successful, from growing, from selling. So can you share with us, Caroline, some of these mistakes? What are some of the reasons why you see many e-commerce stores fail in the first, year and a half or 2 years of their existence and operation?
Sure. So I'll just take it back one step. I've been doing marketing for more than 15 years, and I've owned businesses for way more than that as well. And 10, 15 years ago, it was very different. We had businesses where we'd open up a shop or we'd have to manufacture products, and we had to put a lot of effort into that, and we didn't want to lose our rent and, when you had to rent a shop. Whereas now, because not everything, but there's so many options online that it makes it a lot easier. There's not as much barrier to entry. So I see this problem getting worse and worse for this reason. Say, for instance, you start a t-shirt company or you do some sort of drop shipping business where you don't have to have products. You don't spend $10,000 on products. Mm-hmm. Then we have this problem where this is getting worse and worse because people think, well, it's not so hard, so I'll try it out. If I fail, then it doesn't matter. So these are some issues that I see coming up more than ever. And those are things like people not looking closely enough at where they can actually get their business from. They're not looking at things like posting on their website the price of shipping. That's a very, very basic one that people think, I won't tell anyone the price of my shipping until they get to the shopping cart. But the problem with that is it can seem quite... I call it tricky, but it's not always, not everyone does it for tricky reasons. Some people just don't realize, but it can come across like that you don't want to get to the end after filling out all your details and finding out, hey, the shipping's an extra $50 and the product was only $39. So it's nice to tell people up front what that is. You also want to make it easy for people to get around your website. You don't want to send someone to a page saying, for instance, as an example, I sell red wine and white wine, and then you send people to a page with everything there. If you're advertising the red wine, send them to the page for red wine. If you're advertising the white wine, send them to the white wine. Make it easy for people to find your products so it doesn't feel like they're in some sort of maze. And then you also have to think of, who are your raving fans? Who are these people that are purchasing from you that love what you're doing and they'll actually talk about you? So this is where the latest way that people are really making the most of this is that they're going out and they're doing free plus shipping. So they're sending out a product for free and just charging the shipping. And you've probably heard of people doing this with books. People are doing this with products. And it's a nice way to get raving fans. So it's a nice way for people to come forward and say, hey, you know what, I loved the service. I love the customer service. And I want to stay a customer for that business, or they'll tell their friends about it. So it's just a nice way to build raving fans around your business, especially when you're starting out when no one knows who you are.
Yeah, actually, I think, Caroline, the last point you touched on is so critical, especially, as you said, when we're starting out and maybe we're thinking, okay, nobody knows about us. We are competing. We can be in a very competitive niche. So what can we do to stand out? And you mentioned the example of the free shipping the free delivery, kind of paying for the shipping, but you get the product for free. Yeah, you mentioned books. Yeah, I've seen that being done by many authors over the last, I would say, year and a half. And I also like the fact when you talked about really focusing on the specific offer and driving people or directing people toward that specific offer. I think that's also something that is key. And when it comes to an e-commerce site, do you have anything else you want to add, Caroline, in terms of things we should make sure we think about or things we have to make sure we have in place?
My best advice for that, because there's many little things that come up with different clients of mine, I see different problems, but my best advice can be is we can't let our ego get in the way. So what I mean by that is that we think that we have the best business and we have the best idea and everyone wants to buy from us. But we need to step back and think, do people understand my website? Is someone who's coming to my website understanding exactly clearly what I'm selling? Are the pictures good enough? Are people able to look at those pictures and think, okay, I understand the product, I like the product from the pictures, is it from different angles? Also, is the text on your website there properly? Is it easy to manage? But everything that you do, you have to step back and think, if I was an outsider and looking at this website, would I want to purchase from this website?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a tough question to ask oneself, especially when we often are focused so much on the logistics that we don't take time to do what you just shared with us. And actually, Caroline, there is something else I want to ask you that you touched on in your previous comment, and when you talked about kind of asking oneself, especially when starting out, where am I gonna find customers from, where my business is gonna come from, or at least a part of my business. And you have an article on your personal site, carolinebalinska.com, and I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes, as well as with everything else we cover. And you talk about kind of the cost of a new customer versus the value of loyal customers. So can you take a moment to take us into that kind of thought process that we should really go through? So new customers versus the cost of new customers versus the value of loyal customers.
Sure. So this works not just for e-commerce in the way of just not e-commerce. This is business in general. It's always been known that a new customer is always going to cost you more. Okay, you can get referrals. It's not costing you anything. But generally, if you have to advertise, if you have to do any work to get that person, it's either your time or money that you have to invest. Whereas if you make someone happy and you give them fantastic customer service, then that person is more likely to come back to you and they don't cost you anything. Or they might cost you, let's say, some retargeting ads because you retarget to remind them to come back. Or it might just be the time it takes you to send out an email, which is not an email to each individual person. It's just one email that goes to everyone on your list. So really, if you break that down, even if you pay a company $500 to send an email, if you have 500 people on your list, that's $1 per person, and you can make money off that person. It'll be much cheaper than a Facebook ad. So it's really important to remember that you need loyal customers. And not only, so some people will be sitting there thinking, yeah, but I don't have people repurchasing from me. That doesn't matter. It's really about raving fans. That, it comes back to raving fans. If that person doesn't purchase from you again, that's okay. But if they're loyal, they're going to pass you on to other people and recommend you to other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you just touched on, Caroline, is such a good point, because I think often, first of all, we get so tangled on the numbers in terms of, well, I only have, 500 people or only 1,000 people on my list, and I hear others having 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. So yeah, my list isn't anything. Or even the other thing you touched on, that maybe we think, well, okay, this person or this segment of my list, this group of people, they bought my very first product or service, but they haven't bought from me anymore. So should I still kind of pay attention to them? And you said it. The answer is yes, because if we build super fans, if we build loyal fans, they're really going to help us in terms of marketing, even if maybe we don't ask them to do that for us, because maybe they've been positively impressed by the product they purchased, or even by those they didn't purchase, but they still felt that, yeah, these would be good things I would like to recommend to my audience, right?
Exactly.
Okay, great. So thank you for kind of shedding a little bit of light into the thought process, as I said, that goes behind like the cost of new customers versus the value of loyal customers. And I mentioned that is something you talked about in a blog post, and you had another article, and again, I'll link to that as well in the show notes, where you talked about the truth behind retargeting/remarketing. So, Caroline, can you share with us more about the truth behind retargeting and remarketing?
Sure. That particular blog post was written about a particular client of mine because a situation that came up with that particular client. So first of all, I don't want people to start reading that and thinking, oh, well, retargeting or remarketing. Retargeting is the word Google uses. Remarketing is the word that everyone else uses. So it's the same thing. It's a really good thing. It really, really works. It makes a big difference to your business. But this particular article was talking about that there was no clicks. I've never, ever had this problem before. And that particular client sells photos of horses, and she does courses on how to take photos of horses. That's her too. So she's got an e-commerce part and she's got a training part. But what was happening with the training part was that all the people were photographers, and the photographers use Mac computers. And because they use Mac, they're using the Safari browser, not a different browser. And what was happening was that Safari actually blocks that cookie from being traced on your through your retargeting. So I was arguing, and I didn't actually think about it, and I was arguing with the company saying, the retargeting company saying, hang on a second, I've never had this problem. I have so many accounts with you. I've never seen this. And then I spoke to the client and I said, this is driving me crazy. I can't understand, because of course at first I was not telling the client that there was anything wrong. I was like, I've got to work it out. But when I spoke to her, she goes, oh no, all of my clients use Safari because we're all photographers, and I went, oh, now it makes total sense. So that was what the problem is. You're never going to get everyone, because some people have ad blockers. Some people have different things that they do to block the cookies. But you just need to understand that and say, okay, well, I'm still going to get a large amount. In her case, with photographers, she wasn't getting any of them, but I've never, ever seen that problem before.
Okay, so what would you say is the takeaway for everybody here to really pay attention if somebody does an advertising campaign, to pay attention to those things?
Look, if you're selling to photographers, then I would really look at that. But if you've got any other business, the general amount, I can't remember, I actually did the statistics on it, it's usually about 10% of people that the cookies get blocked. So any other business, I would not worry about it. It's just really for people that are just photographers because of the way their computers are set up, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But generally speaking, when it comes to retargeting or any advertising, you've got to keep an eye on it. You know, especially in the beginning, check it out, check what you're doing. Not just because, so retargeting is pretty simple. It's just someone comes to your website and then you can send an ad just to those people. So it's cheaper than sending them seeing a Facebook ad. Yes? Mm-hmm. Just because you set up an ad doesn't mean that it's the right ad. So you might still need to check a few things. Let's say, for instance, you sell dog collars as an example. And you have people coming to your website, they haven't bought a dog collar, and you want to try to get them to purchase one. Maybe you have to try 3 or 4 different images before one actually resonates with those people in general. So you might want to try one photo that's got 4 different dogs, little pictures of dogs with different collars, a big dog, a small dog, a medium dog. Then you want to try a puppy. Then you want to try, a darker dog and a lighter dog. You have to still try things out. Just because you're selling dog collars to people who landed on a page about dog collars doesn't mean that the only picture that you pick is going to be the right picture. So no matter what, you still need to test out your retargeting and try different things, split test.
And it's interesting you mentioned this, Caroline, and I'm curious, for example, when it comes to Facebook advertising, do you know of, or have you used, how is it called, Ad Espresso?
I haven't personally used that one. I have heard great things about it though. I do hear great things because I've got a team of people that we do the advertising. But I've heard that Ad Espresso is good when you're just starting out and you want to do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So good that you've heard of it. Obviously, you said, you have a team behind it, so maybe Ad Espresso isn't something you rely on. But for everybody who's here, maybe if you're starting out and you're thinking about Facebook advertising, you heard Caroline's advice. It's important to really keep in mind that there may be people who could be perfect customers for your product or service, but they may not get interested in it because of the wrong image you're using, for example. Or it's not really wrong, but it's just not the right image for them. And if you're doing Facebook ads, you kind of have to create different campaigns in order to, use different images. But with Ad Espresso, you can create, you can do A/B testing of Facebook ad campaigns. So I'll link to that in the show notes and you can check it out if you're interested in checking out and trying Facebook advertising. Or maybe you've already used Facebook ads and you're thinking, well, there are a couple of tweaks I would like to do, but I'm not entirely sure what those tweaks should be. Well, A/B testing for Facebook ads, Ad Espresso can really help you with that. And Caroline, we've talked about e-commerce sites. You gave us a quick definition. You told us about some of the things that are kind of holding some e-commerce sites back. You told us about the concept of the cost of new customers versus the value of loyal customers. And now we talked a little bit about retargeting, remarketing, and so forth. And there is something else I know you often talk about, and I really think is the perfect piece for this conversation, which has to do with sales funnels and the power of sales funnel. I mean, I've recently launched an entire course myself on sales funnels, so I really believe in the power of sales funnels. But for everybody who's joining us, can you spend a couple of minutes to tell us what is your take on sales funnels and why you think they can be a very powerful tool for entrepreneurs, businesses, e-commerce sites?
Sure. So when someone purchases from you once, and this is probably the easiest thing to think about, most people say to me, I don't want to do a sales funnel because I'm scared to try to keep selling to someone. I'm scared that I look pushy. But the thing is, when you sell to someone once and they've already bought from you, it's much easier to sell to them again because you've already built that trust. They've already taken out their credit card, or they've put their PayPal details in. They've received something from you, whether it's online or offline. And it's much easier to sell to them again. So you have to see it. And this is one thing that a lot of people are scared about, that they think I'm being pushy. But the thing is, as long as your product's not damaging or hurting anyone, you're only helping that person. So whether it's helping them by selling them a new lipstick, or whether it's helping them because you're selling them something that's going to keep their child safe, you're still helping that person because it's something that they were on your website for. So if you look at it like that and you think, okay, well, I've already sold them this product. Let's say it's a lipstick. You sell them a lipstick, and then you can then put into a queue thinking, what is the next thing that person's likely to buy? They're more likely to now buy, they've bought the lipstick, they now need a lip liner, or they need a foundation. So then you can go through the process and work out your sales funnel and say, what's the next product? Now, there's sales funnels, and you'll know this, is that you've got your upsell, your downsell, and your cross-sell. And it's really important that you set this up because a lot of websites, it depends what platform you're using, you can set up this in your system where they get to the checkout page, and you can say, well, you've bought that, and most people buy this when they buy that. And that's a cross-sell. Or you can, if they're leaving and they're not purchasing, you can downsell them to something and say, okay, well, you wanted to buy this, but hey, you know what? If you didn't like that, maybe you want this because it's cheaper. Or maybe you then, after they purchase, you upsell them to something else. And it's just a great way. There's so much money on the table, and it's just a great way to get in front of that person and sell them something else. They don't have to say yes. So it's not a pushy thing. You know, you can say, do you want it? If they say no, then that's okay. You move on to the next person. They might not have known that you sell that other item. So you're actually helping them. That's the way I see it is, hey, we actually have this. Oh, I didn't actually see that on your website. Thanks so much. I was thinking about buying one of those. Otherwise they're going to go somewhere else and buy it if that's what they wanted anyway.
Yeah, I think, Caroline, what you just touched on, thinking about it in that terms really changes the picture completely, I dare to say, because you said early on, some people may think, well, I don't want to be pushy. They just bought from me. I don't want to bother them again. But you said if somebody has made a transaction with us, it's because we have built on that famous know, like, and trust factor, and they trusted us so much. They've really enjoyed our content. They really see us as somebody who can help them, that they purchase from us once. So we shouldn't be afraid to provide them with something that is the next step, as you said, in the funnel. And you said we should think about in terms of, okay, we're actually helping them, and we're saying, look, people who bought this course or this product or this service often bought this thing as well. If you're interested, here you can get it. Maybe we can even add an incentive to kind of increase the likelihood of them purchasing right there at the moment we want them to purchase. But you said it, if we think about it in those terms, I think the picture is really gonna change. And Caroline, this has been a very interesting conversation. I mean, I said it, we've touched on quite many aspects related to e-commerce, a little bit of digital marketing, sales funnels. And I mentioned one of your sites. So you have a couple of sites. There is your Balinska.com. There is your main site, eCommerce backstagepass.com. And you were also telling me, Caroline, that you also have a Facebook community. So can you tell all of us a little bit more about what we find inside the e-commerce Backstage Pass Facebook community?
So that's a free community, and that's all about just giving you as much help as possible. So I do a daily, or at least 4 days a week, a Facebook Live with different information, and that comes from things that my clients have said to me during the week, and I think that's a great topic, and I'll talk about that. So it's all very relevant to e-commerce, and I'm really there just to help e-commerce stores. So anyone who has a store or thinking about starting, jump in that group, ask me questions, anything about marketing, and I'll help you answer. I'll answer any question, point you in the right direction to the right training, or I'll put together a quick video for you. I'm just there to help. And then of course my CarolineBalinska.com has actually got a lot of just training on their videos, webinar links. There's all sorts of things there, my blog posts.
I love it. Thank you for giving us a kind of sneak peek of the Facebook group. So you mentioned there is e-commerce backstagepass.com, there is the Facebook group, there is CarolineBalinska.com. You find the links to everything we've touched on in the show notes, including the couple of posts we touched on, and you can go to CarolineBalinska.com and sign up to get the free video series, which is titled The 5 Reasons Why 80% of E-commerce Stores Fail in the First 18 Months. And Caroline, if somebody would like to get in touch with you, maybe give you a shout out, or they have a question or anything like that, what would you say is the quickest way to do that? Is it via Twitter at CC Balinska, or is it through the Facebook group or anything else?
Through the group, I'm always in that group, and I've got an assistant that helps me, so I'll never miss any of the messages in there. But also just shoot me an email, caroline@carolinebalinska.com, and I'm happy to answer questions via email as well.
Great. Thank you so much. So you heard it. There is really no excuse not to, first of all, join the e-commerce Backstage Pass community on Facebook, where you get value every single day, Facebook Live videos. You can get in touch with Caroline. Or if maybe Facebook isn't your thing, or you prefer to use email, you can also do that. And again, you find the links to every single thing Caroline Balinska and I have talked about in the show notes. Caroline, to wrap it up, do you have any final tips you want to share? Any final words of wisdom for the people who have joined us?
Well, just quickly, when we were talking a second ago about sales funnels, and if you're feeling like it's something that you don't feel comfortable pushing yourself, go and create a blog post that explains something that you're selling and share that information. So it's how to use it or why it's so important for people to know about, and share that as training for them, some sort of information, and share that with a link inside that blog post saying you can purchase here. So it's a nice little soft sell. And I think that, my clients who are scared about selling and pushing products, that's a really great way to do it.
Man, I love it. Caroline, thank you so much for being here with us, for telling us more about what you do, e-commerce sites, sales funnels, retargeting, and for really providing us with a lot of value from start to finish. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jan. It's been fantastic. Great questions.
And we are back, Caroline. Thank you. Gracias. And you heard it. We mentioned she has a Facebook community. She has a couple of websites, so there are plenty of different ways you can learn from her. She's on Twitter, she shared her email, and you find the links to everything we've touched on in the show notes page over at yanilunga.com/episode 174. And there, you're also gonna find the link to my free course, Funnels 101. It's a free email course that you can get, and you're gonna get some daily tips on sales funnels. So we talked about sales funnels with Caroline toward the end of the interview, and she stressed the importance, the power of having a sales funnel. So everything we have touched on, all the goodies, all the resources are over at yanilunga.com/episode 174. This is it for today. Thank you so much for joining Caroline Balinska and I here on the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. Have a great day, have a great night if it's night where you are, and have a great week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. For more tips and tools, head over to www.janilunga.com.